Welcome to the Employment Services Show podcast. I am your host, Rana Kodahi, and I'm so excited to introduce you to my very special guest, Sam Smith. Sam is currently a job coach at Atwork Australia in Victoria, East Gippsland, which is a disability employment service provider. Now, Sam has been working in business development for 13 years and then took her business development skills into disability employment almost 2 years ago. She's an award-winning job coach and has a passion for changing people's lives. Samantha also does a lot of work and advocacy within the LGBT community and will also share some of the work that she's been doing with Atwork Australia on that topic. Thank you so much for joining us, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you. So I'm going to get straight into the first question. And I did talk a little bit about you, but I'd love to know just a little bit about you and how you got started in employment services.
Sure. I've been in IT for approximately 13 years and decided to make a career change in community services. So I took a bit of time, went back to study to do a diploma in counselling. And at that time, I was actually a client of Atwork or Work Solutions back then because of a back injury. So I was actually in DES employment services, and then a service manager who'd just come on saw my resume and approached me to apply for the job coach role. And sort of that was almost 2 years ago. I've never been in disability employment or employment services before, but thought that my business development skills and experience, along with my qualifications in counselling, could be transferable into this role. So that's how I kind of got started.
That's really interesting. And I mean, yeah, I can imagine the services manager, she would have seen business development, sales straight away and saw your talent. She would have been like, yep, we need this lady with us. So,
yeah. So it was a work in progress because I was sort of trying to apply for other roles within community services. But
yes,
I was convinced to come over, and I'm really glad I did because I think I found my calling. So
yeah, and you're doing pretty well in it as well.
Yeah, getting there.
yeah, it's challenging. It's challenging. So Sam, my next question is just for those that don't know what a job coach does. How does the day of a job coach look like or consist of?
Okay, so it's a lot of face-to-face contact, obviously, with clients. So we'll get referred clients from Centrelink, or we'll actually sort of go out and foster that ourselves. Look, it's a lot of paperwork, a lot of coffee. There's a lot of community engagement with local community services organisations, and that's primarily where our clients are sort of tapped into. So networking with those organisations. What else is it? I guess building the client's work capacity is the main focus. Understanding their barriers, being empathetic and sympathetic to what's going on, and sort of taking it case by case basis. So I'll go out face to face, meet with employers, meet with clients, and try and do some job matching. There's a lot of travel involved as well because we are in East Gippsland. So we cover up to Malakuta, which is about 4 hours away.
Wow, so that's how far you can travel just to meet clients.
Correct, yeah, and I've only got a couple of clients in Malakuta at this stage, but we do that travel up there to sort of facilitate, the meetings and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot of travel, but it's worth it.
Okay, and so you also deal with people with disabilities, and what kind of disabilities would they have predominantly?
It ranges. Look, it's disability, injury and illness. That's sort of the umbrella that it comes under. So look, I can have a client that has cerebral palsy to being legally blind to having a mental health issue, or simply just anxiety or something like that. So it's really broad in terms of the clients that we actually have here.
Yeah. Okay. And I just want to know, what is it that you love the most about what you do?
It would absolutely changing somebody's life. When they come in and they're sort of, maybe at their lowest point and all hope is lost. That's what keeps driving me, is actually, seeing somebody for the first time, and then in 6 months' time or 12 months' time, their life is completely changed.
Yeah.
And that's through, our support and getting them back into the workforce, because having that purpose is really important. So, yeah, that's what drives me. Just seeing the smiles on people's faces when they've, achieved their goals.
And because, you came from IT background, is it something that you've always wanted to do, work in community services for all those years that you were at IT, or throughout your work experience, that's something that drew you?
I think so. Originally, I actually wanted to be a police officer.
Oh, okay.
So I think the drive was always there to help people.
Yeah.
I can't save people, but I can give them a hand and give them the tools. I think I've always had a drive to do something in community services, but this is sort of on the side of community services, disability employment, I suppose. But, using all the skills that I have in sales and then my study, it kind of led me here, and I'm glad it did. I'm actually glad that I'm not in community services directly.
Yeah, because the role does consist of selling, but at the same time it consists of community services and helping people and helping them overcome their barriers. So, and it's actually hard to find people with those set of skills. Sometimes you might find someone that's very sales target driven, but not into the helping people. And sometimes you find someone that's 100% helping people and sales makes them uncomfortable. So when people find someone like, it's when I can imagine that service manager, when she saw someone like you, she would have been like, yes, that's a person that's going to fit right in.
Yeah, I would think that. Certainly if I was looking for a job coach, if I was in a service manager position, then I'd be looking for somebody that has both that skill set.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the job coaches that Atwork have here are very similar to me anyway, which is, I think they've hit a pot of gold there, because you do have to have a thick skin.
Yeah.
And sales gives you that, but then you have to have a fine line between empathy and sympathy. So, it can be challenging, but, it's worth it.
Yeah, I have met your team and they are all great, talented people. So I'm going to ask you another question, which I just thought of now. For someone that doesn't know what employment services is, and obviously we help people overcome their barriers, but what kind of sales do you do? So if you had to tell them, like, what kind of selling, how does selling look like as a job coach?
You're not selling a product, you're selling a person. You're selling what that person can bring to the employer. So it is a different kettle of fish. It really is. Because you're dealing with people's emotions and all that sort of stuff as well. So it's not like, selling a computer like I used to. So in terms of sales, I find it actually an easy sell, because you can be confident in that product as in person. So I've actually found it an easy transition. Actually, much preferred selling a person rather than selling a product. So,
wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Can I just ask why that is? Because I found it the opposite myself. But I'm interested to know.
Good question. I guess maybe it's because of my interest in psychology. Maybe it's my interest in community services and mental health and all that sort of stuff. I think that perhaps I didn't have a passion necessarily for IT. I did it. It was great money. I learned a lot. But being able to work with people one-on-one and being in sales, I've just found it really rewarding. Interesting question. I haven't really thought about that before. But, I enjoy it because you see the end product, I think. Yeah. And you see, you have a plan, a goal and a strategy. And, a lot of the time you don't see the end game with something in IT or whatever sales that you're doing. Yeah. You do see that with a person. So it's that personal touch, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can imagine like putting somebody into a job that has never had a chance, say someone with an intellectual disability. And I'm just thinking about this now, and no one's ever given them a chance, and you're the only person that believes in them. You sell this person to the employer, they get a job. 2 years later, you see them thriving in that job. You've basically made a huge difference in someone's life. And I think there's no price that can ever change that feeling. I'm
No.
just thinking of that reward. Like some I'm sure a lot of technical products, people need them. They can help people with their pain, business pain, things like that. But making a difference in someone's life, you have to really love people to survive in employment services.
Yeah, I think we're in a really unique position in terms of what we're capable of doing and the tools that we have at our disposal. If you sit back and sort of look at the overall picture, it's, you are essentially a bit of a directive in people's lives. Like, it's one of the most rewarding jobs I've had for sure. And I think, like I said before, it's because you can see the end goal and the end product. And absolutely. Yeah, the difference is quite amazing. There's several stories that I could go into about that. We might be here for a while.
But I am going to ask you, one of the questions I will ask you, we'll save that for the later question about a specific person. But what I'm going to ask you now is I want to know more about your work within the LGBT community, but in regards to what you're doing at Atwork Australia, if you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So when I first got here, because I have been a bit of an advocate and been part of the LGBT community for over 25 years now, I'm showing my age, there's a gap in the market in terms of desemployment. So what I was seeing was on my caseload or any of my colleagues' caseloads that there weren't a lot of people who were identifying as LGBT. And so I sort of made it a little bit of a mission and approached my managers and said, look, I think there's a gap that we need to sort of fill. What do you think about starting to network within the LGBT community and seeing what's out there? Because there's many LGBT person that has a disability or an injury or illness, and I didn't want to kind of leave that section of the community out. So it's in its infancy at the moment, and it's myself driving it. So I've got the backing of my managers. So what I'm doing is going out to local organisations, whether they be sort of LGBT based or different shires, different councils and stuff, and saying, we're here, this is what we do, we want to take care of the entire community, the people that you can refer to us, and sort of making ourselves known in that section of the industry. So far, there's actually quite a big gay community around here, but you would never know until you sort of start lifting the lid a little bit. We have several trans clients, and one of the reasons that they've approached us is something as simple as putting the gay flag on the door, the sticker. So we've had people walk in and then sort of come to our services through that, and then word of mouth. And both those clients, I have already got employment for them. Because I can approach an employer and say, this is their barrier, this is they're part of the community, and they have that trust and faith in me that I'm not going to sort of be judgmental, obviously. Sort of open up, educate the community, especially because we are in the country and we are regional. Thoughts around LGBT people are, a little bit closed at times. So that's my work so far. Is just educating, I guess, and just opening up that conversation around that people with disabilities are also gay. We don't want to leave anyone out. So that's where we're at with that.
Well done on firstly identifying the gap and taking that initiative and seeing that niche, and just the fact that putting a flag, something as simple as putting a flag on your door, and then it makes people feel comfortable. And because you do come from a small town, so I'm guessing it's not as open. I'm guessing it's not as open as where you lived in Melbourne in the city.
Absolutely not. No, there's still a lot of the old mate, what they call it in here, old mate mentality. And it's about breaking those barriers down and educating people and taking that, because it's all fear. Yeah. And it's based on fear, a fear of the unknown and fear of what people don't know. So it's about sort of exposing them without, being too over the top and getting the message out there that, we're all the same and that sort of stuff. But a great part about this, the sticker, as small as that is that every single Atwork site that we have in Victoria regionally has a sticker on the door, which is wonderful. So we've seen a steady flow of the community feeling comfortable enough to come to our services, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome, and good luck with that, and I'd love to know more about it as it evolves and grows as well. So my next question I'm going to ask is, I want to know, that's for the employment practitioners who are listening to this podcast. I want to know, what are your top tips for getting the best out of your customers, which are your job seekers?
Okay, so I would have to say trust. Understanding each client's unique circumstances and why they're with DES Employment Services in the first place. Having clear boundaries between the empathy and sympathy, because we don't always deal with people who trust easily. So I would say open communication and honesty. And one of our big mantras across the board is say what you're going to do and follow through. I think that by doing that, you're going to gain trust a lot quicker. Because you're dealing with people, you're not dealing with a product. We'll go back to that. But it's, if you don't have the trust of that client, then, they're not going to put in, any sort of effort. And it's, we don't get to do the job that we're here to do. And you've got to be realistic too. There's some people that come to our services and have quite severe barriers. And it takes us a little bit longer to build their work capacity, but then you have the people that are ready and willing to go. So it's about identifying that well, I guess, and being able to read people as well. So, sometimes they don't always tell you the truth, but it's about, they're more likely to tell you the truth and be real with you when you are with them. So that's my top tips, and that's how I've been as successful as I have this year, is actually doing what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah, and absolutely. Trust is number one. And if the customer, the job seeker, does not trust you, then you'll never get anything.
Nothing,
even hear about their barriers or their hopes or dreams. So absolutely. And I like the mantra. Is that the mantra, say what you're going to do and follow through? Is that the Atwork mantra, or that's the mantra within your...
I think that's within my own brain, but I have no doubt that the rest of my colleagues across Australia think the same thing. And, it's nice to know that I can have trust in my colleagues as well, because I was on Facebook the other night, and a gentleman from the LGBT community who was here in East Gippsland a little while ago has since moved to Adelaide. And he was talking about DES employment and linking in with somebody, and I ended up saying to him, look, do you trust me enough that I could refer you to somebody I basically don't know in Adelaide at one of our other work sites? Would you be comfortable enough and trust me enough for me to send you there so I know that you'll get good service? And he since has. I spoke to him this morning, actually, and he said, yeah, I've just been supported amazingly, and thank you so much for that. And, it extends all across the country. So it's nice to know that the people, that my other colleagues are on the same page.
No, 100%. That's great. Also, you're helping your fellow colleagues in other states as well.
Yeah, I'll try. It's nice to talk to other people too. So. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, I want to know, and this is a question I ask in most of the podcasts that I do, what are some of the, this is for the employers listening out there. As you know, in employment services, specifically DES, disability employment, it's about education. So what are some of the myths and misconceptions when it comes to hiring someone with a disability?
I think this is my favourite question so far, because it debunks a lot of things. So I guess some of the myths and misconceptions are that employees with a disability aren't productive, when really 90% of employees with a disability are as productive or more productive than other workers. Employees with a disability are very reliable, 86% of employees with a disability have average or superior attendance other than other workers. So, and they're actual facts and figures. So, you know, I think one of the biggest ones, especially with somebody with maybe a physical disability, is that they have concerns around the safety of hiring someone with a disability, with a physical disability. And we know that 98% of employees with a disability have average or superior safety records than other workers. So they're really interesting facts and figures. And I found that, look, I actually have a teenager with disabilities, and it's one of the reasons that I decided to take this job, is that I want her to have the same sort of experience that others do, and I want to make sure that, you know, she's been looked after when she goes into the workforce. So I think that from my own experience of putting people in work with disabilities is that they work harder. Because I know I don't want to say this, but they work harder to feel normal. And therefore, you know, I've had, you know, feedback from employers just saying, you know, such and such is one of the best employees I've ever had. So it's about debunking that myth about people with disabilities. You know, I've made it my mission this year to get a lot of exposure through the local newspaper or newspapers. We've probably run about 8 articles on good news stories about locals in the community with disabilities gaining employment. And I feel like we're really making a mark, and people are starting to really understand what we do. And, we're getting some really good responses from employers so far with exposing that.
Wow, good on you, Sam. So 8 articles. That's amazing. So how were you able to do that? I'm guessing that's through your sales skills as well.
Yeah, a lot of networking. Some people would call it sucking up.
Yeah.
But it's actually, you know, I just earlier this year I contacted the local paper, and I just said, well, you know, would you be interested in running a story on, you know, this particular client? And it's something that they hadn't considered before. And then all of a sudden we've just had this, I don't know, flow of the paper coming back to us and going, have you got another one? Have you got another one? You know, and then we had some more exposure about what we have as Job Shadow Day, which we run once a year. And we get our clients and employers together, and they go out on site for a day. So they get to do something different with an employer. It's like a work experience. And, you know, we had exposure with that, and it's starting to snowball, and it's a really good snowball around the town. There's a lot of chatter about it. So who knows what 2020 will bring. I'm not quite sure yet, but we'll just keep moving forward and get as much exposure as we can, because when we do that, we're educating people and employers and clients.
Yeah, and I mean, things are changing, and it's just, and thanks for sharing those facts, because I mean, every time I ask this question, I do get similar facts, but you cannot hear it enough. Some people need to hear it 20 times. And sometimes people have never heard these kinds of facts. And
people need proof.
Yeah.
I think, especially coming from a country town, I mean, they need proof. You know, employment services is very different, I would think, from the city to the country. So,
Yeah, no, it is very different, and it's more community-based. Everyone knows everyone as well. Okay, so also I can see from your answer, like, you do have a strong sense of purpose, and that's why you're successful, because it's close to home. You've got a teenager that does have a disability or disabilities, and and I've met a few people that work in this industry, and I mean, my sister has an intellectual disability, and that's what drew me to work in the industry myself, and kind of keep on going back to work. So thanks for sharing that as well.
You're welcome.
So the final question, Sam, is I want to know about one success story. I know that you have a lot of success stories.
Yeah.
It's a hard question because every time I ask it, they're like, well, I've got many success stories.
Yeah.
It's hard to choose one, but just one success story
Yeah.
you have about a specific job seeker who found a job.
Yep.
And in what way has their life been impacted?
Okay, so I had to think about this very carefully. So the one that stood out to me was Samuel. Sam came to our services with low self-esteem and a severe mental health barrier. I arranged several work trials in retail, and he'd fallen out of all of them, you know. He was really struggling. Then Sam and I sat down and wrote a 2-year plan. We focused on what his passion was and long-term goals were. I found out that he actually wanted to work in community services in AOD. So we helped Sam enrol into an AOD course. While he was studying, I arranged some employment part-time or casual, as a disability support worker with a local organisation here. He began employment, and one of his first clients, and this is the great part about this story, one of his first clients was actually another client of mine. So Joshua had come to me 6 months before. His barriers were cerebral palsy and an intellectual disability, and he'd never worked before. He's 18, and his goals was just to work anywhere and not work within the disability sector, you know, of what he was used to. He wanted a mainstream job. So his parents actually approached me, and where his dad works, they'd approached the window manufacturer and said, oh, you know, is there any chance that Joshua can maybe do a couple of shifts? So anyway, long story short, it took me about 6 months to get Joshua into that employment. He works 8 hours a week, 2 4-hour shifts, but he needs assistance, a support worker there when he goes in for his shifts, and that person is Sam. So it's like a 2-for-1 deal. So Sam's been working with Joshua at the window manufacturer here in Bairnsdale, and they've been doing this for over 6 months. Now, when I said to Sam, okay, we're coming up to the end of our 2-year plan, so the next stage was for him to move into mental health and AOD and sort of complement his study that he'd done. And he turned to me and he said, no, I don't want to. And I said, why is that, Sam? He said, because I've got my dream job. And then
Wow.
it was only yesterday that I had Joshua's employer approach me to extend his contract for another 6 months. So it's an amazing story. Like you could sort of try and arrange it if you tried, really.
Yeah.
But that was a good news story that we did on the Atwork website, as well as in the local papers and stuff. So it's a great story. It's a really symbiotic story because there's so many different factors in it. You know, Sam's getting something out of this, and so is Joshua. Like Joshua's such a wonderful kid, and he was the client that I had with the most difficult barriers at that time. And so I made it my mission to make sure that, you know, with his parents and myself and the manufacturer, that we would get this done. And just to see Joshua so happy at work, he's got it's as small as, he's got his uniform on with his name on it, and you know that, and he's got his own little toolbox and all this sort of stuff. It just makes him feel important, and he's got purpose, and he's in mainstream work. And that was important for us, important for his parents, and important for him. So, and then you've got Sam. So that's probably my biggest success story this year.
That is a huge success story, and that effect of you sitting down with somebody that fell out of work a few times. A lot of people would have given up on that, and then you sat down and did a 2-year plan. Many people don't even do a 1-month plan. So getting him to envision the future, and then him finding his dream job, and then helping another person.
Yeah. It's a wonderful story. It's my favourite story. So
effect. Yeah, no,
yeah,
well done.
yeah, it's amazing what you can do.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you can help one person and that person helps another 2, 3 people, and it's just goes on and on.
Yeah, I have no doubt that Sam's going to go on
Yeah.
to do some really amazing things around this town. So yeah, I wish him all the luck in the world. Not that he needs it, but we've certainly at work have certainly put that platform there for him to step up. And that's what's important, and that's why I keep doing what I'm doing.
Definitely. So we're up to the end of the segment podcast. I want to thank you so much for your time. Also, I want to, in case people want to get in contact with you, whether it's in employers or people that have questions, or even someone that wants to work in this industry, where is the best place I know you're not on LinkedIn, so would an email address, or I'm going to put the website of Australia, I will put that, but what's the best contact email address that people can get in contact with you? And I'll put it
yeah, absolutely. So it's Samantha S at wsgipps.com.au. I'll be happy to receive any emails from anybody who's interested in what we're doing and or wants a job.
Great. And maybe we can get you some more, maybe the morning show, the sun, what is that called? Oh, I don't know. We have in Sydney the morning, I forgot what it's called. It's like Morning Sun, or I don't know. It's like a TV show.
Oh, yeah.
You could appear on the next breakfast show in Victoria.
Oh, maybe. Maybe I could consider it. Yeah, I don't think I'm great in front of a camera, but look, I'll give anything a go.
No, I'm sure you are. I've got a few news reporters and journalists on my LinkedIn, because I'll be sharing this on LinkedIn as well. So hopefully they get in contact with you and, find out more about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Very open to it. Yeah, absolutely. We need to change people's attitudes and change people's lives.
Definitely. So I want to thank you once again for your time. I've learned a lot from you. You've shared a wealth of knowledge. And I can see, I love talking to purpose-driven people. That's why most of the purpose-driven people, they're good at what they do, because they know their why, and that drives them to do great work. So thank you so much, Sam, and have an amazing day.
Thank you for giving us this platform to get our message out there. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.